This is Shannon Holton, Real Salty Dietitian and owner of Sound Growth Nutrition and Wellness. I wanted to apologize for missing our Research Friday. I did end up having a little bit of a family plumbing emergency, so I have been dealing with a lot of that issue and wasn't able to get to my videos, but I'm going to try this week to record a little bit ahead, and that way that you guys will still have some content. So for today, for my kind of more laid back Tuesday video, I did want to give a little bit of an update and some of my thoughts and theories related to the weight loss medication journey. And then also for my little bit of science that I missed out on, I will share some information about honey. I think that a lot of people talk about it in this time of year. It's a good reminder of what is really honey made of and how do you use it and where are its benefits and concerns that could occur. So the first thing I'll say is that since last week, I have lost an additional 2 pounds. So for the last 2 weeks, for not being on the weight loss medication, I've lost 3 pounds, which is actually closer to what recommended weight loss amounts should be when we think about it from a non-medication standpoint. I will say that one thing I've found, and something that I've read on a lot of the blogs and a lot of the chat groups about weight loss, is that people report having a really high hunger, that they're ravenously hungry after they come off of the weight loss medication. And that kind of self-sabotages a little bit of the weight loss. I mean, I guess I don't know if I call it self-sabotage. It's the sabotage of the medication being unavailable or being cut off because of the way that it's prescribed right now. What I will say is that in my process of looking it up, I couldn't really find anything specific related to this, but I did have a small theory. Again, I haven't been able to find research that supports my theory either, but maybe there will be some that comes out as we learn more about the medication and kind of how to offset and how to transition off, or whether or not it's something that some people may need to stay on for longer periods of time. When I think about the way the medication works, it does suppress hunger, but one of the ways it does that is through a slowing of the gastric emptying time. So meaning that when you eat foods, it takes a little bit longer for it to get out of the stomach and move on its way. And when you think about the fact that you spend all of these months or weeks on this medications, and it's slowing down the gastric emptying time, even though you're eating less, your stomach isn't necessarily empty. So typical weight loss, what happens over time is that the size of our stomach accommodates what we eat. And so as you lose weight, the stomach size does shrink some. And I wonder, maybe with these medications, your stomach isn't shrinking as much because you have that delayed emptying. And so when you go off the medication and you return to kind of normal physiologic functioning, your stomach hasn't shrunk to catch up with the weight that you've lost. Again, not saying that this is exactly what happens, and we may find that there is actual some shrinking of the stomach that happens with it, and it may be a totally different reason for the hunger level. And I do think that there's probably some of that hormone and brain body connection that plays into it as well. But I do wonder if maybe that's a part of it, that our stomach just hasn't caught up to our weight loss. Anyways, moving on from that, it's the springtime, the bees are buzzing, and they're making local honey. And I wanted to talk about honey as a sugar substitute. A lot of people call it that. I tend to think of sugar substitutes, when I think of that word, as the things that don't have calories, but as a substitute in terms of sweetening things like cereals, baked goods, all of that. Honey is a substitute for sugar. A lot of people choose honey because of the health advantages. What I will say is that the documented health advantages are related to inflammation and allergies, especially if you purchase local honey during allergy season, because the bees are making honey off of the local plants and flowers that live near you. So when I tell people to, who are eating honey for that reason, I just want to say, make sure you're eating it from local sources for it to work for that purpose. But from a nutrition and a science background perspective, honey is really a composition of different sugar molecules, so fructose, glucose, and sucrose. And that is the same composition as the high fructose corn syrup that we eat or the table sugar that we eat. They all have a percentage and a composition of those types of sugars, the fructose, glucose, and sucrose. Honey and high fructose corn syrup, actually, when I was doing some research, have about the same percentage composition of those sugars. And so I wondered to myself, like, what makes this different? Why is it different? Well, first of all, honey is created naturally. So the composition of honey in the percentages of those different sugar molecules are created, on their own in a natural environment with the bees and the pollen and all of the good stuff. With high fructose corn syrup, those are created through taking the carbohydrate or sugar from corn and then using enzymes to help, or to, I guess, enhance the ratios of the different sugar molecules to make it sweeter. That being said, because they have a similar composition, they are also going to have a similar concentrated sweetness. There is a slight difference. There are a little bit of non-digestible carbohydrates that occur naturally in honey, which make it maybe a smidge slower. And by slower, I mean how fast it gets to your bloodstream if you are looking at your blood sugar levels. But overall, it's still a concentrated sweet. So if you're using honey, because you want the added health benefits of honey in terms of allergies and inflammation, that's fine. But if you're using honey and thinking that it's going to be more helpful for your diabetes or for your insulin resistance or pre-diabetes, you're really not going to see that benefit, because you're still going to have to monitor that blood sugar level. Calorie for calorie, it's going to be similar to the other full sugars like table sugar or high fructose corn syrup. So it's important to keep into perspective how and why you're going to use the honey. From a health advantage and in terms of cooking and properties, some people use honey because they like the taste of it. From a health standpoint, if you are using honey in baked goods or in cooking, heating processes, you're not necessarily going to see those advantages, because the heat in the process of baking and cooking will kill some of those advantages. Some people will dose it like a medication because they're eating it fresh. But in terms of cooking and processes like that, honey can be more expensive to purchase. So if you're using it to cook with, you're not necessarily going to see the health benefit part of it. Same with if you're buying, the pasteurized honey from the grocery store. In the process of heating to kill any potential bacteria or harmful things while it sits on the grocery store shelf, you are losing some of those added benefits from an allergy and inflammation standpoint. So if you do have diabetes, again, use the honey sparingly, just like you would any other type of concentrated sugar. But if you're using it for a health benefit, consider ways to take it more, I guess you could say fresh. If you're having it on a sandwich, or if you're having it in a teaspoon dose or something like that. But you may save money if you decide not to cook with it and use regular sugar, which is a little bit more cost effective, and still being able to manage those health benefits and the cost effectiveness. I hope that was helpful. Again, I'm going to try to keep up with videos this week, but let me know if you need anything, if you have anything you want me to talk about or hear from, and I will see you all later this week. I hope everyone has a wonderful week.